Hey YouTube fam, it's Daughter of the Most High. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. As you can tell, I have a different background. For once, I never do on my other videos. I am actually at my house in rural Minnesota. And for those of you that aren't familiar with this story, the Lord directed me to buy this house just over 18 months ago. I felt for what is coming to the U.S. And I have some thoughts about that since then, but I'm not going to go into that today. Another thing I want to share is that I do have two homes, but I took the money out of my townhouse in the city where my kids are living, and I bought this. It was a very inexpensive, this is an old home, it's over 100 years old, and I felt like it was provision from the Lord. So while I have two homes, I am not somebody that is, you know, super comfortable financially or anything like that. Money has been a challenge. The Lord has blessed me and made a way for me, but I have lived, you know, fairly check to check most of my adult life. So, and it's been a little more comfortable since my kids were residing with me, and I also got a raise at work, and we were splitting the bills, you know, a third by thirds, and so all of that helped, which enabled me to buy my van. I shared all that on past videos because I want to do van life and do some adventures, and life has just not allowed me to. But I have used my van to move various things to this house. So I am, the last 2 weekends I did go home and spent the weekend, and we have 3 dogs. The kids miss the dogs, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to go home this coming weekend, and I'm not going to go home every weekend. But because we're going through this change, and the dogs are going through such a big change, that I have made the trip home the last 2 weekends. So this is actually my third week here. So I have, since I bought this house, I have not lived in this house. I just come here and mow and rake and shovel and do all that sort of thing. I do stay overnight. I bring the dogs with me, and it's always just been a 1 day, well, 2 days, one night adventure. That's my adventure. So, but now I'm living here, and I'll just share a snippet about what brought me here. And I shared in a previous video that I turned 63 mid-January and applied for retirement benefits. And so in January, I was under the gross income cap. And so I was only allowed to work a certain amount in January, which my last day at my previous job was January 16th. I ended up working only one orientation and shift at Visiting Angels, and did one overnight shift for them. I felt directed to apply at Visiting Angels. I actually heard the Lord speak it into my spirit. And I thought that's where I was going to be working. I thought that that was going to be my new, like, change. I was really looking for a change from treatment. I've worked in treatment for a long time. Well, I did work one shift, and I know that was the Lord's hand. I had gotten some overnights, actually ended up only having one overnight. I was given 3, but then the family was paying in addition because their dad was on his deathbed, and they had initially wanted someone there. His son was there during the day, and then staff from Visiting Angels would be there at night. Well, I went Sunday night, it was February 11th, because that's my daughter's birthday. I hate to share too much information on here, but I did do an overnight that night, and this gentleman was on his deathbed, And so I had prayed, Lord, I want to speak to him about you. I don't know if he knows you. I met his son when I arrived. I did the overnight. His son was there at 10 o'clock when I got there, and I spoke with his son just briefly, and he said that he's been sitting with his dad all day, and he knows that, there's a good chance his dad is going to pass in the next day or two. So I was listening to the Bible on my phone while I was there with this gentleman, and I prayed about it, and then I went in there and I said, and he was asking for little, he had a glass with a straw in it, and he was just able to barely speak, barely breathe, barely drink, but his mouth was open, and so his mouth was drying out, and he wanted sips of water, and I would do that many times. And one time when I went in there, I said his name. It's an unusual name, so I'm not going to say it. And I said, you're on your deathbed. You're on your deathbed, and I don't know if you know the Lord Jesus Christ. He died for our sins, and if you've not received him, you need to receive forgiveness for your sins so that you can go to heaven. You are on your deathbed. I don't know how much time you have, but it's not long. And so I said, I'm going to pray a prayer, and I want you to pray it with me. And so I prayed a prayer, and then I sat there for a minute. This is this is not a situation I'm in very much, and ever. A few other times I've met people on their deathbed. One was my dad, and one was another person. I won't share that story. But I have said, you're on your deathbed. Even my dad was in a coma, and the other one was considered brain dead. Their spirit is still alive. And I believe in reaching people, giving them a last chance. And it's not comfortable, but it's urgent. And so I did say to this gentleman and the prayer, and then when I got done with the prayer, I paused and I said, did you pray the prayer? And he said, yes. He could hardly get a voice out. He could hardly, it was, he was able to get a breath, but it was labored breathing. And I kept going in the room and to see if he was still breathing. Sometimes they look like they've passed in that stage, but then you'll see their chest rise and fall a little bit. But facially and otherwise, they look like they've passed. They do, the elderly. And so he said he prayed the prayer, and I knew when the Lord directed me to work at Visiting Angels, they had so few hours, and the weeks were passing with no income, and they said they had hours. They really didn't. There were very few. And so I did do the overnight and the training shift, and the overnight was for that purpose. That was a divine appointment with him. So that was really, really special. So then after that, I said to them, I need more hours per week. I cannot live on, not even 10 hours a week of work, even with my gross income cap. So I prayed about it. Long story short, I reluctantly did a search for an LADC in these rural communities. I did not want to go back to my field. I was already hired at Visiting Angels. The money isn't great, but the work really is very special, working with the elderly in their home or in assisted living, or like the situation I was in. And you really can be there at a time for people when they're very vulnerable and need help and need assistance and need companionship. It's such an important work. And but they didn't have enough hours, and I asked them if they had hours in this rural community, and they don't. They said they don't go this far out. So I said, I got to do something else. So that's when I actually entered LADC. That's what I am, a licensed alcohol and drug counselor in the rural communities on Indeed.com, where I search for jobs, where almost everyone searches for jobs. And there was a couple jobs in the rural community, and I don't even know this area well. Turns out I spoke to somebody, and I actually felt like God was leading me to the place that I am now employed at. This is my 3rd week. And it was for a full-time position, but I stuck my neck out and I said, I don't want a full-time position. I'm looking for a part-time position, an afternoon or evening position. Is there something available? And she said, I think we can work with you. And it just felt like the Lord's hand again. So I did get kind of panicky. I was out of work except for the one shift for 5 weeks. 5 weeks. That's a lot of money, people. And so I did get my first retirement payment end of February. So that helped. So the Lord saw me through, but I did get a little bit nervous it's like, Lord, you've always provided for me, but it's like nothing's coming in. And so then I did that, and it felt like that was God's direction. So that's where I am, and that's why I'm standing in my kitchen here. I do not have my computer here. I don't have my desk set up. I don't have all of that here. I don't have internet here. So, yeah. I'm just kind of moving slowly because I really took a financial hit being out of work. Do I love being out of work? Yes. I have had both a hard life, and I've worked and raised my kids pretty much alone. I've been divorced for 16 years, and this girl ran ragged in a lot of ways. And so when I have time off, I really do refresh. And I need that, but I also need an income. Retirement for me, as I've shared with you before, is working part-time and then getting my retirement benefit check. That's retirement for me, so it's part-time work. So that's the grand update on that. And it was a challenge to leave my house in the city, my townhouse, and my kids, and then divide the dogs. And actually, I brought all 3 with me initially, and then went home on the weekends. I just have the 2 of them. They're sleeping on my bed upstairs, and then our rescue dog is actually at home. So we had to separate the dogs. And so, because my daughter wanted to keep him home. She's like, Mom, I don't know how people live without dogs. That's what she said. The first week, Mom, how do people live without dogs? I said, I don't know how people live without dogs. I've always had dogs, and I love dogs. They're part of the family. So that's that, and that's what I'm doing here. And this was the Lord's hand. It was a little bumpy, but so I had to exercise my faith muscles. Yeah, it's like, Lord, The other thing is the 90-day book read, and or not book read, Bible read. And we are in the last month. I didn't count out 90 days. We're just going to April 1st. Just not random, but not exact 90 days, but close to it, 3 months. And it has been a very special and wonderful time. I think about 2/3 to 3/4 of the group dropped out. They weren't able to stick with it. And I hope that they will do a 90-day read. Or if someone does, it is a lot. And so I'm thinking there's other ways of doing it. The 90 days or the 3 months is that condensed, intense. That's the purpose of it, is to really spend time in the Lord, with the Lord every single day, and to really change up how we live and making the Lord and His Word a priority. That's the goal of the 90-day read. And it really does help. It opens up the Word for people. And so we're going to finish out the Word. We're just about heading into the New Testament. I'm a little behind. A lot of us have been behind, a little bit behind, but we're staying with it. And it's really, I think, a wonderful, life-changing goal. And so I think it could be stretched over maybe like 4 months and cut down the chapters a little bit. It is about 13 to 14 chapters a day, and that is a lot. But I don't know. We're in the end times. And we need to make our time with the Lord a priority. We need to do that. And so that's the last thing that I want to share with you, is about making the Lord a priority in these end times. So here I am entering a new chapter, and I've prayed, God, I really want to do something different. Well, I'm still working in treatment. It's different than I'm used to. I'm working with a different population, different level of care of chemically dependent people, so it's real different for me. But I feel led to the place that I'm working at. So I'll see how that plays out. But I really want to get into some kingdom work. I do. And that's truly my heart. I'm thinking of various things and praying about, looking to be led by the Lord for what I'm going to do next. I would like to do a book study. And I think I said, God, if you want me to do a book study, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that, but show me which book you want me to do. Well, I was on YouTube earlier this evening, and I watched a really good interview. And you know what? I didn't have a chance to write it down. I'm trying to think of the guy's name, and I don't have normally I can, hop on my computer and look up what I was watching, but I don't have my computer here. It was Jan Markle and then her guest, and I cannot recall his name, but he wrote a book about the days of, I believe it's something about the days of Noah. And she said the content of the book is so amazing, so good. And she mentioned like 3 of the books that this man has written. You've probably heard of him if I said his name. And I can share it when I'm able to. I can put it in pin it in the comments. And it's about the days of Noah, and how the current times that we're living in are so similar to the days of Noah, and how the ark is actually a type of the rapture, which when the waters, the flood, raised the people up that were in the ark, the rapture is like the raising up. It's like a type of the rapture. And so, but he goes into a lot of detail about that. And so I'm thinking, God, do you want me to do that book for a book read? So I'm praying about that. I really want the Lord to be Lord of my life in every single way. You can be doing kingdom work and meet with the Lord. This came to me twice. And if my phone cuts me off, which it tends to do, I will make a second video because I want you to hear this. But I'm going to start telling it, and then if I have to go to part 2, I will. So I was watching Girls Gone Bible about a month ago, and they had a guest on there, Jenny Allen. And Jenny Allen was talking about, it's a really good interview, and Jenny Allen was talking about how she had gotten to the place where she wasn't dealing with sin and issues and flesh and all of that, but that she had found a place of like comfort and being done with that stuff. It's like that initial growth stage that takes us so long to get through as believers, most of us. But she had gotten to a place of comfort. The issues were done, things that were a struggle for her in her family, just had gotten to a really good place. And then she said that she had realized that she was still doing a lot of her own thing. So it's kind of like, okay, I got through all the hard stuff. I had to lay down my flesh. Dealt with those issues, and now I can breathe. And I've been in that place. Now I can breathe. And it's nice to just not be stressed, to not be striving, to not be doing all that stuff and dealing with stuff all the time. And that's what she said. And then she said, but I knew that Jesus was not the Lord of my life. Now that doesn't mean she's out sinning and doing anything that she shouldn't be doing, but because she had gotten to that place of comfort, things taken care of, but she wasn't completely surrendered to the Lord as far as making him Lord of her life. That's the next step in the Christian walk. We come to the Lord most of us, full of issues, sinful tendencies, negative thoughts, gossiping, angry outbursts, whatever our issue is, we finally get through all that stuff. And then maybe there's issues with our kids, issues at work, whatever we have, maybe a health issue. We get through all our stuff, we're finally like, woo, done. And that's kind of what she was saying. She went through some hard times. I think she has a pretty good life from what it sounded like, but she did go through a couple hard things. We don't all get the same set of issues by any stretch. But she said, I knew that the Lord was not the Lord of my life. In certain ways, I mean, she actually has conferences and things like that. She does. And, but she still was kind of doing her own thing, whatever that meant for her, without it being sin. It's just that neutral gray area. And so when she said that, I felt, I do that. I walk my dogs, I ride my bike, I read my book, I do this, I do that, that kind of stuff. And I really want the Lord to be Lord of my day, even if the things that He is having me do are not exactly how I'd spend my afternoon or my evening. That's the place I want to get to. And it was that interview on Girls Gone Bible. Those girls are anointed, I'm going to tell you, and they do need to grow in the Lord. They're both very new believers. They do need to grow in some ways. Don't let that throw you. When they start talking about whatever their subject is in the Word, the girls are anointed. They are. And so I just encourage you, if you have, any young kids, most of us don't have teenagers anymore, but you know what I mean? They've grown in their 20s, point them towards Girls Gone Bible. It really is good. And remember, they're so silly in the beginning, laughing and joking. You get past that, when they get serious, you can just see the shift. You can see the shift in the girls, and it's on. It's game on, and they're done. So sometimes I scroll past the initial intro and then just get to when they're down to business with their subject. So it's so good. So anyway, then last night I watched an interview by Howard Pittman. Do you know who with Howard Pittman? Do you know who he is? He saw some pretty amazing things during his lifetime. He passed in 2019, and this interview was about how he had a health issue and had descended into hell. He was a sheriff. He was a pastor. He and his wife had taken in foster kids. They had their own kids. They had fostered somewhere like 20 plus kids over the years. And when he had this health issue, he descended into hell. He met with the Lord, and he was going to ask the Lord for 15 more years, because Hezekiah had been granted 15 more years, and that was his plan. He met with the Lord, and the Lord told him that, I never knew you. And he's like, what? The Lord said, I never knew you. And he said, I called you Lord every day of my life. And God said to him, that was the God of your making. That was the God of your own, creation in your mind. You had all kinds of dead works. Do you guys know that we can do, no, this is just an example. We can do certain things that are good, and it might not be what God has for us. It's what we think of, and we think it's good, so we do it. And the Lord had told him, he was descending into hell, people. This man, he was a pastor. He was a sheriff. I don't know how people do this much stuff, but he did. And he and his wife had their own kids and then had foster kids throughout the years. And he was descending into hell. He had done so much of what he had done in the flesh and of his own doing. And I was listening to that last night, and it was so jarring for me. It's like, there it is again. And I didn't have tears, but I kind of teared up a little bit. And I was like, God, that's that message again, how we can be doing all kinds of things and not be in the will of God. And we can be saying, Lord, bless my day, or Lord, cover me in your blood, or Lord, whatever. And he's like, I don't even know you. You keep doing your own thing all the time. You've created a God, you created who you think I am, and then you just march to that. And then you end up in hell. He was descending into hell. He had had an aneurysm in his body on one of his main arteries, and he was bleeding to death on the inside of his body. He collapsed and then was taken in, and then they discovered what it was. But while all of that was going on, he was descending into hell and then talking to God. I'm going to tell you guys, in these last days, and I'm so grateful for it, that we have got to know that that narrow path is so narrow. God is not playing. He's not playing. So somebody that's a pastor, and we know there's a lot of pastors that really never knew the Lord. I don't know about Howard's pastoring, but you know, everything that he had done, it seemed like he would be a pretty good candidate for, you know the Lord, you're trying, you're doing all this kind of extra stuff all the time, but yet he was serving a God of his own understanding and works, dead works. He said, most of what you did was dead works. It wasn't what I had for you. It's what you thought that was good to do. And it doesn't mean that we can't give somebody money or bake them cookies or bring them a dinner. Those are things that we can do that are very nice. But the majority of our life needs to be surrendered at the cross. Lord, what do you have for me to do today? What is the job you want me to have? Where should I be living? Who should my friends be? What are my activities? What is my ministry? All the things that I should be doing. What should I be doing, Lord? And do you know, between Jenny Allen on GGB, Girls Gone Bible, and Howard Pittman yesterday, the Lord, I feel like I serve the Lord. But this message has come to me twice, in part for me and in part for you. That's why I'm sharing this video. And I can't believe my phone hasn't cut me off yet. And so I just wanted to share that with you. Please, please know and understand that God means business, and I need to know it. We don't know how much time we have. Almost, like, at least of the YouTube videos that I watch, there are so many end time videos. We've got the eclipse coming April 8th, which is another sign in the heavens of the hand of God, and to wake up and to repent and start serving him. And that's for, well, I guess barely believers and unbelievers. There's another message. There's so much going on. And if you have not made Jesus the Lord of your life, if you've not received Jesus, you need to do that. Receive him into your heart. And that's a daily, moment by moment thing. It's not a one-time prayer, or, maybe every few years you rededicate your life. There's no salvation prayer in the Bible. It's a laying down of your life every day to what the Lord has for you to do. And I just want to share another example that just came to my mind. Now, sometimes people they're in the stage where their kids are young, and they think they should be spending all their time at the church and ministering and counseling and giving and doing all their stuff, and they should be raising their family. So what they're doing is good, but it's better to raise their family. Then as the kids get older, maybe, we get to that place where, okay, all that work's done, all of that's done, the family issues are settled. Now I want to chill, kind of like Jenny Allen. And do you understand my point? I'm saying it's so easy for us to miss. You know how many people miss? Surrender your life whatever stage you're at. God, what would you have for me to do? What do you want me to do for work? Where should I live? Who should my friends be? What should my ministry be? Should I be doing the 90-day Bible read? Should I be reading other Christian books? Other, YouTube videos? What should I be doing, Lord? That's how I want to live my life. And I'm like anybody else. I still want to hop on my bike and do what I want. Or if I want to chill out for a little bit. Or if I want to whatever. I always want to do what I want to do. And now I don't have a sin issue in my life. I don't have gossip. I don't have anger. I don't have any of it anymore. Any of it. But I still need to every day make Jesus Lord of my life and be serving him. We are going to be face to face with him quicker than we even know. If I can just say my daughter graduated from high school, which was such a significant time for me, and then my kids were raised, and this summer in June, and I said this to her the other day, it has been 6 years in June that you graduated high school. 6 years. It feels like 2 or 3. How did the years pass that fast? My point to you is our time is so short. Those 6 years passed so quickly. From the time of her graduation, then the Lord spoke to me, brought me to the narrow path, told me I couldn't remarry. That was really significant because those things happened right at the same time. So I was like essentially done raising kids. She's finishing high school, or she finished high school, graduated, and then the Lord spoke to me in August of that year and told me, and that changed the trajectory of my life. And yeah, and now 6 years, it'll be in June. Holy smokes. Guys, time passes so shockingly quickly. Don't think that you have a bunch of time. Somebody else said that recently too. There was a time when you were kind of like, you could kind of relax a little bit. Not that we should be running constantly, but we're in the end times. It's time to get very serious about everything that you do and everyone that you're around and who's in your life and who shouldn't be in your life and all of those sort of things. And of course, what your ministry or another 90-day read or whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're on track with God. My sheep hear my voice. If you're not hearing his voice, you may not be his sheep. Okay? You should be hearing from him. At least sometimes. So urgent. My phone goes like that kind of golden color. Don't think it's the glory of God here. It's actually the light. Maybe it's the glory of God. It's the lighting in my kitchen. So I just want to share that with you. And I know it was a lot. I'm at 32.5 minutes. I usually don't make videos this long. But I want to share that with you. Some personal updates, some ministry updates, and make Jesus the Lord of your life every day, every day. We are almost done, people. Our time is so short. Yes. So anyway, it's great to be with you. It's great to be sharing with you. I'll let you go for now. Sorry this got a little long, but I will see you very soon. Be blessed, family.